Call to order, Fairfield Zoning Board of Appeals, February 2, 2023. We have a few things on our working session, and we're also going to hear from Ms. Harrigan to discuss and advise this board some of the requirements of our continuing our education, our continuing education for zoning and town planning issues. And we'll take that up right after we go through the two quick items, and then we'll open up the full hearing. First, I need to have approval of the minutes from January 5, 2023. Entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second? Thank you, James. And we only have 4 voting on that. Mr. Avalone is joining us shortly. Any discussion? Hearing none, bring it to us. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? None. That carries. We can vote on that. We have a quorum to do that. And number 2 is approval of secretary's fees. Entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Jane. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll bring it to a vote. All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? None. That carries as well. And Ms. Harrigan, if you don't mind waiting for Mr. Avalone to join in, and then I'll have you address the zoning board on the requirements that the state has instituted for town planning and zoning officials for education, which is always a good thing, as a lot of us in our professions do continuing education relative to our professions, whether it's a lawyer, architect, planning, real estate. We all have continuing education requirements, and I think it's good that we're going to have to do that as well. So one moment for Brian to join us. And remember, people, I announced it before when we did not have a record, but number 5, 2268 Fairfield Beach Road is not going forward today. Brian, are you there?
I am here.
All right. This time, I'd like to introduce Emmeline Harrigan to advise this board, and we have Mr. Avalone signing in, Elise McKay, also one of our alternates, and I will pass along the information to Faith and to Harold at another time. But thank you, Ms. Harrigan. You don't have to stand up.
Okay.
It's fine.
Thank you for having me today. In last year's legislative session, our representatives in Hartford passed an education requirement for both Zoning Board of Appeals members and alternates, as well as Plan and Zoning Commissions and alternates. In that requirement, from the time that you're elected, within the first year that you're elected, or if you're a sitting board member, during this first year from January 2023 to January 2024, each board member is required to do 4 hours of training. One of those hours is mandated to be on the topic of affordable housing or fair housing. And the other 3 hours can be at your discretion. So if you have an interest in historic preservation, or if you have an interest in environmental issues, resiliency, there's a wide array of topics that can fulfill that other 3-hour requirement. The State Office of Policy and Management does have a summary that includes the topics that are available for training that are provided both free and for payment depending on the workshop that's available. Jody has forwarded, I think, a lot of that to you. What we're doing is, as we find out about these, and by we I mean Jim Wentz, Planning Director, and myself, as we're finding out about these, we're just kind of mailing them out to you and to our own board members as well. OPM is also maintaining a list and a calendar of potential workshop events. I know that we had forwarded to the Connecticut Bar Association is a great partner in providing some of this training for commissioners in terms of, just running a meeting, Freedom of Information Act, what the requirements are, what that means for you as kind of seated public officials. So, some of the training we're going to get from them, some of the training we can get from some of the advocacy groups in the state. For example, Connecticut Main Street also does some really great programming. Usually what we find too, because as Jim and I as planners, we're also required to do continuing education credits. These are oftentimes during lunchtime periods, which hopefully works with whatever your day jobs might be, in addition to the public service that you provide the town. But, you know, please, if you're going to do something that requires any kind of payment, understand that we have allocated $100 per commissioner to be able to help you pay for whatever training opportunity you'd like to attend. A lot of the training can be free. One of the things that we've kind of talked about internally as well, Yukon Clear does a series of recorded webinars that either, you know, some of them are coming up or they'll be in kind of in-person virtual, but they also have pre-recorded sessions. So, you know, if as a board you look at some of these things and go, we really like to do predisposition together and whatever it might be, if you do it in a group that requires that you publicly notice that as a quote-unquote meeting, we could always do that and then have staff available to kind of have an interactive Q&A after that, since some of them are kind of pre-recorded formats. But I would say feel free to talk amongst yourselves if, you know, if you want to share some of the education that you go out and attend back with the rest of your board. But just understand you do have to do each of those 4 hours independent on your own. Well, not independent on your own, but each of you have to attend those 4 hours. If somebody goes to one session and then comes back and says, well, I did this and it was really great, you kind of can't get their credit if you're not there also doing it. So there is the requirement, too, that you report back to us, because we are also required to inform the First Select Woman's Office that you've completed your required training. So that's all I have. If you have any questions.
What's the time frame for that again?
So 4 years within this first year, and then after that, if you remain, you know, if you
4
remain-
hours?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
4 hours. 4 hours within the first year, and then if you remain a board member, every 2 years after it's 4 hours.
So we have a year to do 4 hours?
Correct.
I think I can handle that.
Yep.
Any other questions for Ms. Harrigan?
You said, what's OPM?
Office of Policy and Management at the state.
Uh,
And then I did also want to let you know that I know that we had forwarded the March training in Wesleyan, at Wesleyan, and unfortunately, we were informed that that particular training, while covering, most of the time, it doesn't cover that full 1 hour of affordable housing, because I think there is a half-hour block of affordable housing topic, and then another half hour that talks about fair housing for part of it, but then also religious uses and land use as part of that other half-hour segment. So unfortunately, that training won't fulfill your 1 hour affordable housing requirement.
So how do we find out where we can find the 1 hour affordable housing?
There'll be lots of opportunities available. I know that, just not that particular one, just doesn't count towards, it would cover everything else except for probably about a half an hour of training. We've been in conversation with both the Connecticut chapter of the American Planning Association, the Connecticut Bar Association, the Connecticut Association of Zoning Enforcement Officers, to ensure that at the end of it, we know that there are, oh my goodness, I don't even know how many commissioners statewide who need to, you know, get this training for this next year. So we are well aware that, you know,
Times 168.
right, exactly, that we need to develop some of this training as well. So this is just kind of the start, you know, since it just started at the beginning of January. We're only into like the first month, and we've seen a lot of the programming be very intentional about including affordable housing as some of the subject matter, and I'm assuming that it will continue. We'll continue to hear about opportunities. So I will forward them to Jody, who can then forward them to you.
Great.
If you ever have any questions, please feel free to contact myself or Jim or Matt, and we can get you an answer.
All right, great. Thanks, Emily.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Just to make sure, Elise and Brian, did you have any questions? No, we're good? All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, can we go into, public hearing? Matt, are we good to go?
You are,
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Call to order, Fairfield Zoning Board of Appeals, our public hearing, February 2, 2023, to order. When I call a matter, ladies and gentlemen, at that time, you can present your application. You go up to the podium and present that. If you have something to show us, and you have, I see some boards here, you could use a chair, or you could ask one, Mr. Decker, to help you on that for holding if you wanted to share. During your application, during your presentation, that is the time for you to share anything you want us to consider. That includes any petitions that you have for signatures or anything else, photographs. It's during your presentation. While you are at the podium, that's the only time that you're supposed to come up and show us stuff or bring us stuff for us to consider. After the application's presentation, anyone who's interested in that application will be invited to come forward and speak, or if you're remote, you can't come forward, but raise your hand, and I'll give you an opportunity to speak remotely as well. I will first ask for those that are in favor of the application to speak. If there is anyone that is in favor of it, I'll give them an opportunity to talk first. Then I open up the floor to anyone who opposes that application. And if there is any opposition, I will then allow the applicant or his or her agent to address the comments in opposition. That is a rebuttal time. It's not a time to restate your application. It's time for you to address the comments that oppose your particular application. Second, this meeting is being taped, and it's required by state laws for us to create a clear and concise record. That's why I've emphasized a couple of things: to only show us stuff while you are making your presentation. It's important to only one person speak at a time. I will give everyone a fair opportunity to comment and speak, but I will reserve my right as chairman to restrict your comments at any time if you're too far off the point. This is a Zoning Board of Appeals. Most of the matters before us are relative to regulations that the Town Planning and Zoning has set forth, and you're seeking some type of forgiveness or variance from those regulations. That is our focus. Our focus is not on other matters which are outside our jurisdiction. We're only here to talk about this particular property and the particular regulation as it relates to that particular property, and whether it creates some type of a hardship if we enforce that, or to have the town enforce it. You're looking to us to vary it or forgive a little bit on that. So please keep that in mind when you're making the comments, whether you're the applicant, whether you're in favor of it, or whether you're opposed to it. After, this is a short docket, and even if we had a long docket, we still do the same thing. We've done this the same way for a long time now. After all the public hearing and it's gone forward, and each matter that does go forward today will be decided today, all right? If during your application you think there's a reasonable basis to ask for a continuance of that, I will welcome that. I'm not going to force you to go forward today if you think that there's something else that should be considered. But if you do, we do complete the hearing today, we will vote and decide on it today. There are 5 voting members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. You need a supermajority for your application for a waiver or variance to be granted. I strongly suggest that if you can, to stay during our working session, our executive session, not really executive because it's open to you. We're allowing you to be here. And it's important for you to listen, because if there is discussion on it and it doesn't go the way you want, whether you're the applicant or whether you are opposed or in favor of it, it's something you didn't like our decision, we'll be talking about it. You may learn something as to why we voted a particular way, and I think that's important for anyone who's interested in any particular matter to stay. If you can't stay, don't worry, there's no penalty. We won't hold that against you. I know everyone's busy. But you can call the zoning office tomorrow to find out, or later, to find out what happened. If an application for waiver is granted, it's not going to be valid until it's recorded on our land records. So to do that, if your application is granted, you definitely want it to be recorded, because it's no good if it's not recorded. So you must bring or send a check in the amount of $60 made out to the town of Fairfield, and send it or drop it off to the zoning office for proper recording of the notice after, you do it Wednesday or after following the meeting. Any waiver involving construction, whether it's a new dwelling, addition, or an alteration, will require an as-built before there can be any issuance of a certificate of zoning compliance and a certificate of occupancy. All right, I'll call our first matter. It's a short docket, like I said. Our first matter, 401 Springer Road, map 121, parcel 27N, petition of Deborah Cavalier for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.5, to increase the lot coverage from 10%, currently approved at 11.36%, proposing 11.46%. Permission to construct an extension to an approved deck, premises AA zone. Ms. Cavalier?
All right, so I give you these now?
Of course. Now it's your time.
Would I just pass them?
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, hi, members of the board, dear chairman and fellow commissioners. I wish to extend my already approved rear deck to my accessory garage by an additional foot. My hardship is that I have an undersized lot by almost 50% of the required lot size of the AA zone. The rear of my property slopes significantly downwards towards the lake, which makes it impossible for me to construct a patio of its place. The height of the deck does not change, and the 1-foot extension to the rear of the deck is actually further away from the already approved setback variance that you approved in February of 2002. So if you see the illustration, this is where the garage studio is, and I made a little line, and that's where the deck is going to be, coming off of the screen doors. It's a 5-foot deck now. I want to move it 6 feet. I was with my aunt a couple of weeks ago, and she was in her wheelchair, and I went to turn her around in a small area, and that's kind of like, you know, it just came up, like, what happens if I'm out there, I want to paint, and I'm in a wheelchair older, if my father comes there, and I like to make it wheelchair accessible as well, and I don't think an extra foot, you know, is going to really affect any of this area here. And then below on the bottom, where you saw the circles, I'm going to put some plants there and dress that area up where the terraces are. Try to do some nice landscape in the spring. So that's it.
And just for the record, you're Deborah Cavalier.
Yes.
Of 401 Springer Road. You forgot that. You jumped right in. That's okay.
Okay. I'm not good at these.
That's what I'm here for. To try to make sure the record stays clear. Okay. Does board have any questions for Ms. Cavalier? Any questions? Brian, any questions? All right. Say no. Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone that opposes this application? Anyone present here? What about remote? All right, hearing no comments, we'll be taking this up shortly. I'm going to close the hearing on 401 Springer Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Hi.
hi.
Hello.
I'm not
This is
closing.
Eva Sidwa. This is Eva Sidwa. I'm here with Tegan. We're neighbors of Deborah, and Trudy is also on the call. So neighbors from left, right, and across the street from Deborah. And our wish is to be heard. Trudy, are you on? This construction is affecting. There has been a lot of misrepresentations to what was being constructed, and we're just concerned about any further construction. Plans were not necessarily shared with us, and there's been a lot of construction, and it is outside of the 10%. At the very least, as neighbors from left, right, and across the street, we would like to be better informed of what's going on.
Ma'am, I didn't get your name, and what's your address? We need that.
Oh, sorry, my name is Eva Sidwa. Name is Eva Sidwa, E-W-A, last name Sidwa, S-I-D-W-A, and the address is 377 Springer Road.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sidwa. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak that has opposition to this application, 401 Springer?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Allowed?
Of who? Of her?
I'm just curious, I wasn't clear whether they're objecting to this or just want more information on it.
She said it's outside the 10%.
Yeah, she's objecting to it.
Okay.
That more than 10%.
Yeah.
She said they just want more information.
Yeah. They're, on the, what side? South, thank you. I didn't have that all the way over. Thank you.
So we're on the right side looking at the lake, and then Trudy is also online and having a hard time getting on. She was texting me at the same time, and she
And that's
was saying,
Trudy Poutre?
yes.
Matt, can you see if that's,
I believe that's her, Mr. Chairman, but I can't unmute her. I sent the request, but they haven't accepted it.
Trudy, if you're hearing us, you need to unmute yourself to be heard. We can't hear you when you're on mute.
I think it's pound 6.
Pound
Trudy,
6.
it's a- Sorry.
I'll give it another minute to see if you can unmute yourself.
It's either pound or star 6, Mr. Chairman.
Try *6. So, Ms. Sidwa, you have spoken with Trudy, and she has indicated she also objects to going over 10%.
Yes.
Is that accurate? And
That's accurate.
Did she ever give you a reason to relay to us?
Yeah, so the challenge that we are running into is a history of misrepresentation. Ms. Deborah showed us, one plan, and then it evolved to another and another, and it's and the construction that is going on is bigger than Trudy has understood it to be when she initially signed off on a tiny, garage. That's what I heard from Trudy, but I would rather have her speak to this.
I
Me,
appreciate it. But she can't, she's not connecting, so I don't know what else I can do.
Yeah, no,
Wait.
and I'm just trying to be helpful, but at the same time, I feel, not appropriate. But anyway, there was, obviously to Trudy, this construction is obstructing her view a lot. For me, it's obstructing it a little. Again, it was supposed to be a tiny thing, and it's becoming much larger than initially represented. So the challenge is the misrepresentation. There was lots of trees that were taken down. So the challenge is disruption to wildlife habitat. The trees were taken down, bushes are taken down. Any further, decking and stuff is obviously not going to help. And, there's been branches that were cut off, trees cut off, tops of them, and full trees gone. We're just not supportive of any further going over any restrictions.
Okay, all right, we hear you, but Trudy still hasn't. I'm confident that you relayed her concerns accurately because we have two opportunities. I have to run a public hearing here, two opportunities to be heard, and one is to be present, and the other one is remote. So there's two very good opportunities. So,
Trudy is in Florida right now, so she can't be there in person. I'm a mom that needs to pick up my kids, so I can't be there in person either. But
that's why we have it remote as well. So
yeah.
I will ask one more time, is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to 401 Springer Road? Okay. So I rescinded my previous closing of the hearing. I opened it back up because those people, and Ms. Cavalier, you have an opportunity to address, just like I said, address the comments in opposition.
I'm going to be good at this. I moved into the house in 2020. I've been trying to put an artist studio / garage there for a long time, as Matt and Scott and everybody in the town hall knows, in the building department. I have asked both neighbors, what do you think I could do? I was trying to put it in the front of the house to make this neighbor happy. We're gonna put a small like, everybody was, both sides were telling me what to do and what they wanted me to do. And then finally, I was, and Matt could tell you, because I was just exhausted. I'm like, what do I do? And even Jim says, it's your property. You have the right to do what you need to do with the property. Now, I am 50%, smaller than the other properties there. And what I'm asking for here is literally 12 inches on a deck to extend it. That doesn't bother anybody else. And Trudy did not want me to put the studio there because she didn't want to have to look outside her husband's office to look onto my property to see my building. My house is extremely small. I would like to get back to work, and that's why I'm building this project, so I could build my studio and have a little bit of storage room and get my things out of storage as well. I mean, it's just, they've just been knocking me down ever since I started this project. I really have tried to work with both ends for over a year and a half, and if you look, I have tried to get variances for different things. So it doesn't matter what we say we're gonna do, they're just not gonna be happy, because they have somebody coming in who is really doing a nice job on the property. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ms.
So,
Cavalier.
that's it.
All right, now I'm gonna close the hearing on 401 Springer Road. Our next item is, number 2, 879 Bronson Road, map 177, parcel 186. Petition of Daniel and Jennifer Najjar, for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4.3, to reduce the sideline setback for an accessory structure from 25 feet, proposing 15.7 feet to the pool and 9.5 feet to the spa. Permission to construct an in-ground pool and spa, premises AA zone. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Rich Bernstein, and I am here representing Dan and Jen Najjar, who reside at 879 Bronson Road. And the Najjars wish to put in a new in-ground pool, 35 by 16. And well, their hardship is they're in a AA zone. And they are in a pre-existing, non-conforming 1-acre parcel. The required lot size, lot square, and lot frontage are as follows: 43,500, 135, and 135. And their lot consists of only 19,420, 74.8 and 75 respectfully. So they are handicapped, especially in width on this, on their property. So we're running into a side setback issue with the pool. The Najjars have reached out to their neighbors and sent letters, put a form in all their mailboxes. We got 2 of the 4 people responded and signed, and the other 2 have gone quiet. We just haven't heard either way.
All right, okay, and board have, is you all done, Ms. Bernstein?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so, didn't want to cut you off. Board have any questions for Ms. Bernstein?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the outdoor kitchen? Is that a piece of equipment, or is that a structure? What is
It would be, well, it's not being done in this scheme, but for a future, it is a countertop with a refrigerator under it, essentially.
Does that qualify as coverage? No, okay. Oh, one more question.
Kind of like a grill.
Well, if it's built in, that's what I don't know.
Well, people wire and pipe their gas permanently.
It's just that there's all these little things that either are covered or not. So I also don't see a fence around the pool?
By law, you don't need a fence, you need a, automatic pool cover.
Thank you.
Okay.
And they are obviously installing an automatic pool cover.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Bernstein? Okay. Hearing no other questions, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone in opposition to this application? 879 Bronson Road. Okay, hearing, Well, that's one less person to comment, so. So, I'm gonna close the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bernstein, on 879 Bronson Road. The next item is number 3, 220 Henderson Road, map 229, parcel 109, petition of Christy Goodgoin. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Good, John.
Goodjohn, sorry, for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the sum of two sideline setbacks from 20 feet, currently 19.8 feet, proposing 13.8 feet. Permission to construct a rear one-story addition, premises A zone. Go ahead, Matt.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. I'm planning on actually have removed, an existing non-conforming detached garage from the west side of my property, and I'm constructing a rear one-story dining room, office, and mudroom addition. My hardship is that I have a pre-existing non-conforming lot in residential A zone. The minimum required lot size is 9,375 square feet, required square of 75, and the required frontage of 75. My lot consists of 8,449 square feet, with a square and frontage of only 50. I am not seeking a variance for lot coverage or total floor area. I'm only seeking a request for the variance of the sum of the two sideline setbacks. The mudroom is really what's causing the problem here, a 6 by 10 foot mudroom that I'll be putting onto the house. And it's gonna be, if you have the, drawings, it's gonna be pretty much in front of where the garage used to be that I've removed. And the garage, if you notice, was much closer to my neighbor's property. So this is actually gonna be further away from their property than what was there when I moved in and bought the house. And I've, shown them the plans, they've signed, you see in front of you, I have my neighbor's signatures, they're fully on board and supportive of the plan. And that's why I'm here today.
Okay. All right. So, board have any questions for Ms. Goodjohn? Okay. All right. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application? 220 Henderson Road? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to this application? 220 Henderson Road? All right. Hearing none, I'm going to close the hearing on 220 Henderson Road. Thank you, Ms. Goodjohn. Our next item that we have is 28 Alberta Street, number 4 on the docket, map 7, parcel 2, petition of Ryan and Molly Marchione for variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.5, to increase lot coverage from 20%, currently 24.09%, proposing 24.52%. Permission to construct a rear second floor cantilevered addition, premises A zone. And Ms. Tominski, you're presenting this?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Tominski, and I'm here on behalf of Ryan and Molly Marchione of 28 Alberta Street. 28 Alberta Street is in the in the residential zone A, with a lot area of 8,059 square feet. The property is improved with a two-story, single-family residential dwelling constructed circa 1930. A variance is sought for the allowed building coverage per section 5-2-5 of the Fairfield zoning regulations. The proposal is to construct a 7.9 by 17 foot second floor bathroom addition. The Marchiones are in need of an additional bathroom for their growing family. They currently have 3 young boys, one of who has many medical needs. The addition will be constructed primarily over the first floor footprint, which is 34.5 square feet, which will be cantilevered out over and contribute to extra building space. So you can see, I think the elevation is probably the best. So you can see that there's about 19 inches that are cantilevered out. And we attempted to make the bathroom fit over the existing floor area. But however, we found to make a functional bathroom, we needed 7.9 feet in width. And so this additional floor area will increase the non-conforming building coverage a small amount for 20.09% where we are now to 24.53%. And that's why we're here before you. The building floor area will remain conforming at 34.38%. The hardship is that the lot is unusually diminished with 8,059 square feet, where 9,375 square feet is required in the A zone. And I don't have anything else. I would like to thank the board for their time, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kaminsky. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Kaminsky? All right. Hearing no questions, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this application, 28 Alberta Street? Is there anyone in opposition to this application, which is 28 Alberta Street? All right. Hearing no other comments, I'm going to close the hearing on 28 Alberta Street. Thank you, Ms. Kaminsky. Number 5, 2268 Fairfield Beach Road has been continued to March. Our last item is number 6, 253 Ruane Street, map 182, parcel 783, petition of Nicholas A. and Christina B. Asaya for variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the sum of 2 sideline setbacks from 20 feet, currently 29.7 feet, proposing 14.2 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase the lot coverage and total floor area from 30% to 50%, currently 18.5% and 17.1%, proposing 34% and 54.5%. Permission to construct 1 and 2-story second floor and porch additions with an accessory apartment premises D-zone. Attorney Fallon, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is John Fallon. Looking at the clock, I'm feeling some pressure because I know you're trying to set a new record for the hearing. So my reputation being what it is, I'm going to have to probably try to move this along. I'm pleased to be representing Nick and Christine Asen. Nick is here in the back. They're here. Christina unfortunately couldn't get off work today. But she appreciates the time consideration of the application. Before I delve into the specifics, I mean, to me, what this application, having worked closely with the Aces over the last few months, is all about is a family that really loves their neighborhood. As you'll hear, a neighborhood that really loves this family, and their desire to remain in their home that they've been in for so many years, while at the same time addressing some very significant needs of their family for additional space. Nick and Christina have been the owners of the property since, I guess they are the owners of the property. They purchased it. They first rented it, actually. They moved to Fairfield in 2007 and rented 253 in 2009 and were able to purchase it in July of 2015. They have 2 young children, Austin, who's age 9, and Charlotte, who's 6. I have to take a minute to talk about, I think, the reason they have such fundamental support in their neighborhood, because they're very unique people. Christina is very involved in the community without going through everything she does. She is a board member of the Cardinal Sheehan Center in Bridgeport and the United Way of coastal Fairfield County. Nick has previously spent time in the benefit of the town serving on the Holland Hill Building Committee, and also has been since May of 2017 a member of the Fairfield Board of Education, where he currently serves as the vice chair. He is also, in addition to his vice chair duties, serving as the chair of the Board of Education's Facilities Committee, no small task in these days if you read the paper, and the chairman of the Board Transportation Safety Committee. They love their home. Their family enjoys their home very much, but these are the realities they face. They have 2 young children, as I said, and they simply have outgrown their current space, which comprises only 2 bedrooms and 1 bath for the entire family. As I point out in the material I submitted, this lack of space is exacerbated by the fact that Nick's mom, Josephine, who will be 80 in April this year, will be relocating to live with Nick and Christina in the near future. Unfortunately, Josephine has experienced episodes of serious falls in 2021 and again in 2022 that have resulted in her hospitalization, and she has unfortunately been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The condition is such that she does require family support, and this would be provided by residing with her son and daughter-in-law in a setting, as I'll talk about in a minute, that provides that kind of support, but also allows her the opportunity for independent living as she ages in place. So for all of those reasons, the intent of what's before you today, this application, is for the ACEs to enlarge their home with sensitivity and in keeping with the character and architecture predominantly found in the immediate neighborhood. Before they lay pen to paper in terms of the plans that are before you, the ACEs visited all their neighbors and talked about what they wanted to do, where a window would go, where this would go, how this would line up. The response from the neighborhood has been absolutely overwhelming, and I've submitted the petition electronically. I'll do that again in a minute. But what they heard time and time again, and I know you all in your diligence traveled around Rouaine Street, and there's a lot going on Rouaine Street. And none of it is bad, but a lot of it is very different. And the feedback that the ACEs received from time and time again from their neighbors was, we thank you so much for what you're doing here in terms of the design. We thank you so much for doing something that's in keeping with what we feel is the character of our neighborhood. We thank you so much for not building what the neighbors refer to as a skyscraper and whole new construction. And that is not in any way to criticize new construction or a lot of the development that is on Rouaine Street. But I think it speaks very well to the approach that the ACEs took to this matter and what they're trying to do to deal with the need they have for additional space, but in the context of a beautiful historic neighborhood that has its own character. The problem is exacerbated by the fact that the property is located in the FEMA flood zone, and the plans as submitted will in fact bring the residents into full compliance with the FEMA guidelines and requirements. However, to accomplish this, the basement, which they previously utilized, will have to be filled in accordance with those requirements. There will obviously be no mechanicals below 12 feet, but we're going to lose the basement, which again only makes more stressful the loss of space and the lack of space that they presently have. So the plans, in this case, address not only the needs of Nick and his wife and the children, but they do, as you can see, provide for a small and comfortable accessory apartment that'll provide the referenced opportunity for Josephine, Nick's mom, to have family support while at the same time maintaining some independence in her living arrangement. A review of the design that the ACEs have provided will basically modify the existing roughly 1,200 square foot first floor and provide a more open floor plan conducive to the needs of the family. The plan also relocates the bedroom and laundry room upstairs and provides much neededly 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms over the existing footprint. This increases the square footage to accommodate the needs of the family, especially as the children grow. And this additional space will help offset the loss of the basement area, which, as I said, is being filled due to FEMA compliance. The accessory apartment also becomes very important as an element of what's driving this and to provide for Nick's mom. The exterior design, as I said, has been focused from the start on ensuring that the proposed addition is going to provide an aesthetic enhancement to the property while being in character with the surrounding homes in the immediate area. Once completed, the ACES home will be architecturally attractive and I think similar in design to homes in the immediate neighborhood. I did submit electronically the petitions. These petitions, there's 2 pages. These are the originals, so I'm going to provide them, Matt. I have copies for you. These involve not only the direct abutters, but just about everybody in the neighborhood. And as I said, it comes as no surprise because Nick and Christina reached out to them at the outset of this process, and as I said, without being redundant, the neighborhood is very, very pleased with the design and very supportive of the application. So, under 8-6A3, you need to make 2 determinations with regard to this application. You have to find that the variance does not substantially affect the comprehensive zoning plan and that there are elements presented to you that satisfy the requirement of hardship for purposes of granting the variances that are requested. With regard to the first aspect of the test, I cite the Egan case in my material. You're familiar with it. Egan stands for the proposition that if the use to be allowed after the variance is granted is a permitted use in the zone and or is consistent with other uses in the area, then the first part of the test is met. The proposed addition here, as they've been designed, is in fact very attractive, harmonizes with the character of the other homes in the neighborhood. It's not going to change the use of the property from a single-family home, and will, and the neighbors certainly concur with this, represent a very significant aesthetic enhancement to the property, benefiting the surrounding area. With regard to the hardship requirement, as I said in my material, one of the factor here that I think is of significance is that it has been noted in numerous cases and by this board that the impact on FEMA regulations and compliance therewith is in fact an established basis for a finding of hardship. This is most certainly the case with regard to the present matter, where the proposed addition will require the basement to be filled and therefore stress even further the family's need for additional space. This loss of interior space due to FEMA compliance addresses directly matters pertaining to storage and other uses that the family has previously put the basement to. So the design as proposed will address the loss of space and the needs of the growing family. The other thing I would point out too, in terms of the application and its design, was there was careful attention here, notwithstanding the impact of the FEMA regulations and the needs of the family, to not go overboard relative to the variance that were required. The FAR variance requested here is 4.5%. The zone allows an FAR of 50%. And in this case, the request is for 54.5%. So in the context of what this zone allows, and taking into consideration all the other factors that I've addressed, not only the needs of the family, but from a legal perspective, the impact of the FEMA regulations, I would respectfully suggest that that increase of 4.5% is not unreasonable and is certainly supported by the facts that exist. With regard to these variances requested for some of the side property line setbacks, I cite numerous cases in my material that stand for the proposition that the location of a pre-existing structure on a lot creates a proper basis for a finding of hardship. And it is, in fact, the existing location of the current structure that creates the need for the variance that is requested with regard to the sum of the setbacks, since the proposed addition cannot be constructed without the granting of such a variance due to the location of the existing structure. The other thing that I think is pertinent to the board's consideration and is of particular relevance is the fact that the proposal before you tonight, this afternoon, provides for the establishment of an accessory apartment to benefit Mr. Ace's mother, in accordance with the provisions of the zoning regulations as amended by the Town Plan and Zoning Commission very recently in 2021. The purpose of the accessory apartment regulations and the amendments made by the Commission is to address the identified needs in the community for the maintenance, preservation, and creation of affordable and secure housing units within the town of Fairfield, benefiting all segments of our population, often including elderly who, like Mrs. Asa, are in need and support but want a place to reside and remain in place. So I think the creation of this self-contained, separate living unit incidental to the existing family residence achieves a planning goal that has been embraced by our Town Plan and Zoning Commission and the community as a whole. And we're certainly acting very consistently with that, while at the same time addressing an immediate need of the Asa family. So I end where I start. A family that loves the neighborhood, a neighborhood that loves the family, people who work very, very hard with the neighbors from the outset to come up with something that the neighbors are excited about and feel is in character with the neighborhood. From a legal perspective, you can look at the fact of the implication of the impact of the FEMA regulations as it relates to the need for the additional space that drives the FAR variance. And you can look to the location of the existing structure, which drives and creates hardship with regard to the sum of the setbacks. And at the end of the day, what we hope you will do is approve this application, and thus allow Nick and Christina and their children to remain in their home, in the neighborhood that they love, and with their mom, who will have a secure and supportive place in which to continue to reside with their family. So be pleased to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Attorney Fallon. Board have any questions for Attorney Fallon?
This is, well, it's great that you're putting in an accessory unit.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the second floor,
Mm-hmm.
but it's being specifically provided for somebody with Parkinson's. Is that accurate?
Nick, come to the microphone, identify yourself, and please address the commissioner's question.
Yes, thank you. So, yes, she is mobile at the moment,
Yes.
but if you, are able to look at the plans, we made accommodations for the stairway, for the private entrance, so it's 4 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
So we plan to put a stair glide in there for her to be able to go up. We couldn't afford an elevator, so I spoke with Collins Equipment in town, and we're planning to put a stair glide, and that's why we made the stairwell 4 feet wide.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing no other questions, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Here or remote? Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to the application? 253 Rowan Street. All right, hearing none. I'm going to close the hearing on 253 Rowan Street. Thank you, Attorney Fallon.
Thank you very much.
All right, and do we need a break, or can we go
Right in.
right in? We good?
I'm exhausted.
All right. Public hearing, the Zoning Board of Appeals, February 2, 2023, has been closed. Now we're going to be opening up and returning to our working session. We have a few matters that went forward today. The first one is 401 Springer Road. Ms. Cavalier, she presented this, and we also heard from two neighbors that
Man, God, you guys.
Okay, thanks. Okay, and entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Too late, Brian, sorry. Terry got it. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Katie. All right, discussion. Like I said, we had the two comments, and then Ms. Cavalier adding a foot to the deck was increasing it, requesting an increase from what we previously approved actually in August to 11.36% to 11.46%.
We were talking about 0.1%, correct?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's a de minimis request, and I think the objections that they had were more relative to just not really understanding what she wanted to do with her property before, and not necessarily germane to what we're looking at today.
Any other?
Is this a variance to a variance? Is that, because there's an existing open building permit, right? Its own.
Yeah.
Well, they're only allowed, they're allowed to do that. 11.36,
Okay,
absolutely. So whenever, we've had multiple things, they come back and ask for a little
okay.
bit more.
Just curious how that, okay.
But, all right, I'm going to go in order as if you were here, Brian, sitting at my far right, so you are fourth in line. Katie?
Yes.
Sir?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Brian? Thumbs up from Mr. Avalone. I say yes, that's been approved. Number 2, 879 Bronson Road, petition of the Najars, and Mr. Bernstein presented this for in-ground pool. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jane.
She's on delay.
Forgetful, not showing up, messed up.
You need to be a little faster, Brian. I know there might be a touch of a delay. So, be careful, because I may slow down and try to trick you on the next one. Try to anticipate.
I'm gonna leave the movements to all other board members today in reference to the noise around me.
That's very courteous of you. All right, discussion on 879 Bronson? Yeah, I mean,
Underground, I mean,
Yeah.
what you wanna do is pull those grades.
yeah. All right, bring it to a vote. Katie?
Yes.
Yes. Jane?
Yes.
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Yes. Been approved. Number 3, 220 Henderson Road. Ms. Goodjohn, she presented her own application, to construct a rear one-story addition. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Katie. Second?
Jane, second.
Mr. Arbalone, did you notice the delay when you, said you weren't going to do anything, the delay in that before everyone was on it?
I certainly did, but I was trying to be true to my word, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Discussion? I think it's a fair request.
Yeah, I think this is a more than fair request.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Katie?
Yes.
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes,
I see your lip.
Yes.
Yes, that's granted. Number 4, 28 Alberta Street, the petition of the Marchiones. Mr. Minsky presented the application. It's for the second floor cantilevered addition. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Katie. Discussion?
I think
Yeah,
they've
and
done
we have
everything they need to do.
Well, 1,300 feet undersized lot.
Yeah.
All right, Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Brian?
Absolutely.
Yes, that passes. As I said earlier, number 5, 2268 Fairfield Beach Road, continue to March. Number 6, 253 Rowan Street, petition of Sayas, Attorney Fallon presented the application for 1- and 2-story second floor additions, porch addition, and then accessory apartment. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Katie. Is there a second?
Jane, second.
Thank you, Jane. And discussion?
It's very handsome from the front, but I have to note that, what they're asking for is more than 10% more in coverage than they're permitted. And it's yes, because they're going 34% and they can only do 30, so that extra 4% is 10% increase.
Oh.
And the same thing with the, FAR, it's almost 10% bigger than it needs to be. And there's so much new construction on this, and they could simply eliminate the porch, and they wouldn't need all that other, extra variance.
I think what they've done is, and as referenced by all of the support that they received from the neighborhood, far more in keeping than what others have done. And again, we don't look at precedent. However, I think what they've done is very nice. I don't think it's more than they needed. And I think they've given due consideration and received support from the neighborhood. So I think it's good enough for me.
I think it fits well with that, with the neighborhood on Wayne Street, and maintaining a single-family home.
Mm-hmm.
And that FEMA hardship does come into play also.
Well, they got a whole attic out of it, so that kind of takes care of that.
All right, we'll bring to a vote. Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
I'm gonna
Jane?
say no.
Brian?
Yes.
I say yes. That is granted as well. Thank you. We're going to close the full hearing. Zoning Board of Appeals, thank you, everyone. See you in March.